their 10th Amendment prerogatives, and that they, as an independent, autonomous, free state, have an obligation to stand and protect freedom in their states. That is truly exciting.
Dr. Baldwin, stay with us for 5 more minutes on the other side. I want to get your ideas on how we fight the anti-free speech legislation, the anti-Second Amendment legislation, and a lot more. The website's ChuckBaldwinLive.com, ConstitutionParty.com. We'll be right back with the 2008 presidential candidate, Chuck Baldwin. We're going to have Chuck Baldwin with us until noon. Appreciate him taking time out to join us. And I want to open the phones up, but specifically on the Hate Crimes Act, which gets all the attention. That just makes thought crimes associated with real crime, physical crime, kick in. So it's a big problem setting that precedent. But that's nothing compared to the Cyberbullying Act. It says you don't have to punch somebody, yell at them, nothing. You write or say something that somebody says hurts their feelings, they sign an affidavit, you are federally charged, period. And, of course, they'll selectively enforce that. That's the Cyberbullying Act. We've also got all these other bills. H.R. 2401, which puts you on a no-fly list if you're in any of these databases or the government feels like putting you in there. Now, this is absolutely amazing. Bill in Congress would ban gun ownership at will. It's the No-Fly, No-Buy Act, H.R. 2401. And this is just the beginning. The UN, the World Health Organization, admits they're going to use the threat of pandemics to bring in global government. That came out of Bilderberg this weekend. They're going to use global financial crises to bring in their New World Order. That's now being set up in front of everybody. They are going to use global treaties, which Obama is trying to get the Senate to ratify to restrict the Second Amendment heavily, banning altering your firearms, reloading is now an act of terrorism. It actually says it. But this one, this ties in with Michael Savage not being allowed to go to England or Europe. That's an EU rule. Or the fact that I can't really go to Canada. I get arrested whenever I go there. No charges, no reason. They just say you're an extremist. This is the global system. And boy, isn't that Pastor Baldwin right out of Revelation? I mean, even if people don't believe in the Christian faith or don't believe in God, shouldn't they be opposed to a global tracking system where you face scan and thumbprint to buy and sell? Because that is what's being set up. And these no-fly lists for gun owners, that's just the beginning.
Oh, you're starting to hit one of my hot buttons now, Alex. You know, absolutely. Any Christian, regardless of their eschatology and where they come down on the return of Christ, and of course there's many, many varied opinions on that depending upon what point of view a particular believer has. But the point is, there is no doubt that believers throughout history have understood the basic elements of what is called the mark of the beast or the revived Roman Empire, call it whatever you want. The Christians throughout history have understood the elements of that. They've understood the evil of it all, and the way that Christians are set in opposition to it. Unfortunately, what's happened over the last few years is that many of our Christian brothers and sisters have used the return of Christ and the various elements of that doctrine as an excuse to literally sit on their blessed assurance and do nothing, saying, well, this is all a part of prophecy, and Jesus is coming soon, and there's nothing I can do about it. And just the opposite of what our Lord told us to do. You know, He told us that as believers we are to occupy until He comes. Occupation is a very hard work. It's a very onerous task. It's a very serious endeavor, and we have an obligation to oppose these things and to do what is right, regardless of when Christ comes. And it could be today, or it could be 100 years from today, or
well,
longer.
Pastor,
we don't know.
I mean, to interrupt, let's look at the word occupy. The god of this world is the old devil, and so occupying, makes the statement. It's like an occupying army. It means the world will be against us, but we've got to occupy it. That means run it.
Well, occupation is both a military term and a business term. In the Greek, it literally means to take care of business. And we as believers have a task. We have a business to take care of. and we're supposed to take care of business up until the time that Christ returns, whenever that is. And no man knows the day or the hour. And anybody that says that they do are lying to us. They don't know when Christ is coming. Until then, we have a job to do. But what I see going on, and one of my major consternations is the way that Christians use prophecy as an excuse for lethargy and apathy, to sit back and do nothing to oppose the things that they know to be evil. If the believers in 1775 and 76, and the pastors specifically, would have acted the way that we are acting today in America, we would still be a crown colony of Great Britain. There would be no Bill of Rights. There'd be no Declaration of Independence. There'd be no U.S. Constitution. There'd be no freedom that like we've enjoyed for these 200-plus years. They stood up and they opposed tyranny. They opposed the global order at that time. They did what was right to do. Most of these men and women were Christians. The pastors were on the front lines fighting for our freedoms, and they prevailed. But now what are we doing today? We're sitting back, and we're, in the name of prophecy, in the name of Christianity, we are allowing the evil one to remove all of the fundamental freedoms that our forefathers fought and bled for. It's inexcusable, and we've got to get the preachers and the churches of America to awaken to what is happening and to set in opposition that which is necessary.
Well, again, I make the point because we have a wide-ranging audience. Even if you're not a Christian, let's say you're an agnostic out there listening, is it a good idea to have the federal government coming in and telling churches what they can and can't say under the 501c3? Is it good to have the churches twisting Romans 13, Hitler's favorite Bible passage about render unto Caesar? I mean, is it good to then have the majority of the nation that calls themselves Christians saying, I'm supposed to sit here and do nothing and not warn anybody? How could somebody not want to go out and fight this system? And again, folks, even if you don't believe in Revelation and all of that, like I do, the point is that is it a good idea to have a world government that you can't buy or sell without a thumbprint and a face scan? What type of control does that give government? And they are setting that system up. They are stating it is for tyranny. It is to bring in a one-child policy. It is to bring in feudalism, serfdom, eugenics. I mean, you know, it's not just that we have a global government forming. It's that it's run by a bunch of control freak tyrants. And then when you study what those control freak tyrants believe in, they're occultists to a man. So, you know, I just encourage people to investigate what the world elite actually believe in, and then ask yourselves, why do they hate Christians so much? And I don't mean your big national TV preachers. I mean, why do they hate real Christians? Why is that, Pastor?
Well, I think because they know that, you know, where the Spirit of the Lord is, there's liberty. Jesus Christ came to set men free. If the Son, S-O-N, shall make you free, you shall be free indeed. Jesus is the personification of freedom. Stand fast in the liberty wherewith Christ has made us free, Galatians 5:1. But let's go back to your statement a minute ago. You know, and I've said, and last year when I was on the campaign trail all over the country, I said this: we either have freedom for all or we have freedom for none. And it really doesn't matter whether a person is an agnostic or a Christian or what his particular religious belief may or may not be. We either believe in the Constitution, the rule of law, the principles of the Declaration of Independence. We have freedom in this country to worship God the way we see fit, to not worship God if that's what we see fit, or we don't. And so whether a person comes from a theological point of view of any kind, or whether he comes from an atheistic point of view, although I believe that an agnostic and an atheist has a difficult time understanding the real principles of freedom, because I believe those principles are rooted and grounded in the teachings of natural law, which are biblical. Regardless of what our particular personal philosophy might be, we either have freedom for everyone in this country or we have freedom for none. And I think that is the key. And believe it or not, and this is one of the things when I was on the campaign trail last year that I really found amazing. I saw so many of my Christian, especially pastors, that seemed to be in such a fog, Alex. They just didn't have a clue.
They're under a spell. They're under a spell.
Whether it's a 501c3 thing or whether it's they're afraid of their church congregations, they're afraid of losing their retirement programs or whatever it is, they're sitting out there in a fog without a clue. And then I found some people that they would not identify themselves as churchgoers or Christians, and yet they're energized about fighting for freedom. And so, I've said this before. I would rather vote for an unbeliever, regardless of the office, whether it's president, whether it's congressman, senator, House rep, doesn't matter. I would rather vote for an unbeliever who will preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution of the United States than to vote for a believer who would not preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution of the United States.
But we know that's a trick question because they're not really believers, in their heart if they're not fighting evil.
Well, I understand that. But what I'm saying is, everybody, every 2 years, every 4 years, everybody professes to be a Christian. If you're running for office,
yes.
People don't come out and say, "Vote for me. I'm an agnostic."
Exactly. I don't want to hear talk. I want to see action.
Exactly. But the point is that the oath that every office holder takes, from federal, state, local, doesn't matter. The oath they take is to preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution of the United States.
Yes.
And that's what we need to hold them to, and they're not doing it. We the people, unfortunately, for the most part, have not held our elected officials accountable to the Constitution, and that includes Republicans, Democrats. It doesn't matter what side of the aisle.